Alright, welcome back to another video. I just realized that I was like constantly Twitch streaming like everything that I was just doing instead of actually just like straight up recording it, which was my intention. So that's what feels bad, man. Um, but anyways, so far we've gone through basically how to open in terms of like knowing which buildings to make, which units to make, and now I'm gonna actually start to demonstrate like kind of the beginning. I'm actually gonna keep talking about strategies and stuff like that at the beginning here, um, but yeah, I'll try to run through some more demonstrations. Again, I'm gonna pause a ton still, but hopefully you guys will see a little bit more game, and it's not going to all just be me talking and a lot of blah 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 blah. Again, I like to talk, and I'm trying to give you guys the rundown of kind of everything I know about Deathmatch. So hopefully, again, you might have to rewatch the videos to really pick up on this stuff, especially if you're a new player to the game. But hopefully, after listening to the stuff a couple times and then playing some games, maybe play some games and come back to this and then be like, oh, okay, that's what he was talking about, right? Sometimes it takes a little bit of experience to kind of understand what's going on. But anyways, and also when you're starting to play deathmatch, the extreme AI is actually decent in the beginning. So especially if you don't raid the AI in the beginning, the build up it has is pretty good. So if you want to, I'd actually recommend instead of playing against actual people, especially don't play in the ranked ladder. The ranked ladder is a joke, honestly, in my opinion. Like the maps do not cater to deathmatch. Like starting a nomad and step in like a deathmatch setting is so stupid because if you kill all the villagers, then they can't build any more villagers, and then it's just really dumb. So, anyways, I recommend playing like when you're starting to play in the play against the AI, and then like I said, I'll link the deathmatch gaming Discord in the in the description or something like that, and then you can meet other people that are playing deathmatch that are looking for games and whatnot. Anyways, but otherwise, when you're practicing this beginning mechanics and stuff like that, I would just play against the AI. You're gonna get so many more games out of the AI, and really what you want to practice is the first 4 minutes. You don't want to really go beyond that. So the AI is really good for that. So anyways, so yeah, let's talk about rating a little bit. I'm gonna put this actually on. I'm gonna put this on all visible here. Actually, I don't really need to have it on all visible, but yeah. I don't know. Yeah, okay, that's fine. Okay, so Celts, Magyars. So right away, I could think like Paladins and Helms because I know they're. So right away, based on what I was saying before, right, Celts, I get Paladins, but I don't get the best Paladins. So maybe I just go 2 stable Paladins here. Magyars, Paladin, Civ, probably gonna go Paladins. So I'm thinking 6 stable Helms probably, right? And then I'd also want to I could make champions, but do I really need champions if I make help? I can make help and siege and basically counter everything he has. Like he gets CA and paladin, right? If I make help and siege onager, the helps kill the paladins, the siege onager kill the CA. That's basically all I really need. So yeah, so for like 2 stable paladins and like 6 barracks helps, and then just go for like again now I'm not making the ranges, so I'm not putting the gold in the ranges, so now I can just invest in more siege workshops. So instead of like the 2 standard siege workshops, now I can go for like 5 or 6 siege workshops and go for like a mixture of siege onager and rams and scorpion or something like that, right? So again, to start every game, let's pretend this game I'll actually just reset it. So actually, in the beginning, just when the screen changes from a black screen to a game screen, right? You can actually queue villagers. So what I like to do is I like to queue the villagers in the black screen, or not in the. You can't just queue them here. That doesn't work. If I try to make villagers here, it doesn't work. Watch, I'm trying right now, but it doesn't do anything, right? But if I reset and I'm getting ready to make the villagers right away, if I press right when it changes, right there, there's just that fraction of a second there where I can actually queue villagers before I can actually see anything. That is kind of a nice thing to do. The next thing is is you kind of have to make a decision. Are you going to be the player that goes for to create the buildings first, or are you going to be the person that sends the scout first to try to hit them? Because uh, if I go for the buildings first, so let me just go for the buildings first and then see what time I send the scout at. So create the buildings first in the beginning. All right, so I got the scout out at around 8 seconds, right? The other option is I can send the scout right away, and then the villagers are going to be. So it took me 8 seconds to do this basically, and then it takes like a second to send the scout. Or I can send the scout, and then the scout could be en route. I think it's better to send the scout honestly, because again, the scout, like once you send it, it only takes a second to send it, and then it's 8 seconds closer. By the time your buildings only go up like a second later, but the scout is going to be 8 seconds faster to the enemy base, right? So I think it's better to send the scout. A lot of people are not sending the scout right away. They'll just keep the scout and they'll do the buildings first and then send the scout. I think that's why I do so well in the raids, honestly. Now that I'm looking at it. So don't ever tell any if you ever watch this video, don't tell anybody else about this, right? This is our little secret, all right? It's our little secret. Don't tell anybody about this. And if you do, I will find you. Anyway, sorry. So yeah, sending the scout first I think is ideal. And so what you want to do if you're going to send the scout, and this is what I do. Okay, going to click on the scout, like in the beginning, the scout's going to spawn somewhere, right? I don't know where it's going to spawn. Spawn over here, whatever. It's going to spawn somewhere, right? The villagers always spawn on the left side. I said this before, but they always do. So you can always expect the villagers to be here. So the building layout is always going to be somewhat like, it's going to be like this, or sometimes the stables are here instead of here. But anyways, the scout, I don't know where, I think it spawns anywhere. So the best way to select the scout right away is not to just like go and pick it up, but to actually use the idle military button. So for me, I have the idle military set to what is it? Control that. Why are my hotkeys different here? I thought I reset these. I set it to control tab. For some reason, it got reset. I'm not happy about this. It is control tab. What the hell? What the hell? That's not what I wanted. Why doesn't it select the thing? Oh, it's not idle right now. No wonder. Duh. Alright, let me just reset this. Alright, so I cue the thing. What I like to do is I have my mouse here in the corner like this. Okay, so I'm gonna let it go for a sec, but in the loading screen, I'll have my mouse in the corner like this, because again, I'm trying to spot where he's at. Where he's gonna be at is gonna be wherever the main gold's at. In like a standard like Deathmatch Arabia game, it'll be wherever the gold's at. In other maps, there's different indicating factors of where they're at, like a berry patch or something like that. So that's kind of one of those things you gotta learn the map kind of layout and then try to figure it out based on that. But for Arabia, it's wherever the main gold's going to be. Especially in these deathmatch Arabias, there is no berry patch, so you have to find the main gold. So the main gold's like I think here. So yeah, so they're probably going to be in this area here. So what you want to do is in the beginning, you want to get ready to queue the 5 villagers. To shift queue 5 villagers, because again, don't just queue 1 villager. Shift queue 5, all right? And again, I have these mouse buttons, shift and control, set on my on my mouse, right? I have a mouse that has extra buttons. I put this stuff on my mouse, the shift and control stuff on my mouse, because it's easier to do like shift and then just press the key with my thumb than it is to like move my fingers and stuff like that. It's way too much work. So do that, by the way. I have a video again on the hotkeys. Watch it. Change all your hotkeys to mine, all right? If you don't, whatever, but don't blame me when you're slow. All right. Anyways, so you're gonna queue the 5 villagers, right in the intermediate screen, in the black screen, and then you're gonna do idle military button, and it's gonna go. You're gonna go here, and then you're gonna right click, right? I did this all on pause screen, so it's all gonna still work, but that's what you're gonna do. And then the scout at the first second is gonna be going towards their base, and then after you send the scout to their base, you're gonna press the space bar, because once you're selecting the scout, it's going to bring you away from the villagers. So again, you're not going to want to use your mouse to go back to the villagers. You spacebar to select idle villager, and then build the stables and stuff. Right, if you're going to go for the raid. So again, unpause, then you go stable, house, bam. That's gonna be a good start. All right, from here, you can do a couple different things. You can either finish off building like the houses around this villager here. You can do a bunch of different things here at this point. So I kind of varied up, I guess. I mean, I pretty much always build these houses here, so I like, again, I like to I like to go like this, and then again, I'm holding shift when I'm building these, when I'm going to build these buildings, so then the villager doesn't stop building this one. That's again pretty essential. You don't want to just have this villager like try to build these other buildings. You want to keep him building this one. So holding shift while you're building, while you're trying to set frames is really important. And again, it's a lot more space efficient to build the buildings like this, I think. You can also do like rows and stuff like that, but I tend to do the first 4 houses like this. And then from this point, again, you can see my scout is about maybe a third of the way there. So you don't necessarily have to go to the scout at this point, but just kind of keep an eye on it. If you're closer to the enemy, maybe you want to go to the scout, but ideally you want to be able to control the scout as soon as they're getting into the base, so you can start targeting enemy villagers. But aside from that, again, we're against we're against Magyars here. So next thing I want to do is add the barracks. So again, I can add my barracks here, or set the waypoint actually first. Barracks, and then maybe 4 more. And then at this point, you're gonna look back on. By the way, I misclicked this. I wasn't holding shift when I pressed this last one. Now this villager's going there. That's bad. But now what you want to do is you want to either, if you had a control group set to this scout, you want to go to the control group. Otherwise, you want to just check on the scout. Obviously, fix this, but and then make sure your TC gather point is set on one of the barracks. Okay, so if you use the go to all stables hotkey here, so again, you guys are gonna have to, if you're new to this game or something like that, you're gonna have to go back and review this stuff. And I would advise you actually to start up a game and try some of this stuff. You don't have to try like a live game like this, but just get a game open where you can try doing some of these things while I'm doing it. But like when you're if you send your scout first, then your scout should get to the enemy base before they get to your base with their scout. So you should be able to target their villagers, which causes them to react before you have to worry about having to react here with your own scout. So, but what I like to do is I like to be looking at the villagers when I'm at their base, and then when I hear those stables go up, because there's an audio cue that tells me that stables have been built, I use the go to all stables hotkey. That selects the stables without me having to look at them, and that's when I cue the paladins, right? So I queue the paladins. I'm looking at the villagers where to raid, right? And now I go back, check out my buildings. Again, make sure you have villagers. That was bad. Make sure you have villagers evenly distributed across your buildings, right? So that each villager is ideally only building one building at a time, because that'll help make the building be more efficient. And then try to, if they do send their scout early as well, you're going to have to react to their hussar. And so ideally what you want to do is just, if the villager's far away from the town center like this, just send your villager as soon as you realize they're getting targeted. And sometimes they'll target, and then as soon as they see you run, they'll retarget. So be careful with that. And then just try to retask your villager there and then run this other one instead, right? And then I guess another small tip is that if they do target a villager that's right next to the town center, something that you can do is you can let the hussar attack you like 3 times. You can let it hit your villager 3 times and then garrison. That'll cause the hussar to like be idle, basically attacking a villager that you're not going to let die. So that can be kind of good. Versus if you just garrison right away, you might go retarget one of these other villagers, which is going to be it's going to be less convenient to like run this villager, because sometimes the villagers actually get stuck in these gaps and the hussar gets kills that ways. But that's just another tip here as well. It's the villagers close to the town center. Just let it hit you a couple times and garrison before it's going to kill, and then it gives you a little bit more time to get your paladins and stuff out anyways. But let's say you're not having to deal with the hussar or whatever, or the hussar's not here or whatever's going on. Then what you want to do is, while you're here, right, while you're queuing up your paladins, set the waypoint. And you're going to want to set the waypoint actually behind the enemy base. And the reason why you're going to do this is because if you set the waypoint in the front of their base, then what's going to happen is that the military is going to, if you set it to the front of their base and then you're not paying attention when the paladin arrives here, then the paladin's just going to chill here, and all the enemy military is just going to congregate around it and kill it like quickly. Versus if the paladin's running through the base, right, you might not be paying attention when it reaches this point here, but since it's running through, it's probably not getting like, it's not taking a whole lot of damage, and it gives you more time to react to be able to go to look to snipe villagers. Again, if you pause it inside the base, right, it's going to give you less time to react to the paladin being in that location or whatever, and it's more likely to die. So always try to run through. Again, you can always react when the paladin's out here and then target out here. But let's say again you're not paying attention, you're defending at home or whatever. It's just better to have it go into the back. The other nice thing is that it drags the enemy army to the back, right? So that if you have the next line of cavalry coming or paladin coming, there's not a lot of army up here sitting up here to defend against it, right? All of it is going to chase your army in the back, and they have to manually click it back to the front if they want to defend the front, right? So yeah. So hopefully that makes sense. So yeah, set all staples to the left side here, right? And then what you want to do is just go to one stable, and it'll bring you back to the stable here, which is fine. And then you just right click on the other side. So you can have two go this way and then one go this way. And that's again going to be ideal because it allows you to split your paladins up a little bit and better chance of sniping villagers. As far as which villagers that you want to go for in terms of um, yeah, which villagers do you want to kill? Which ones do you want to focus? I think generally the rule of thumb is just focus the ones that are farthest away from the town center, or the ones that maybe like have the least amount of army around them, or lowest HP. It's like some combination of those. I mean, in terms of like whether or not they're building the houses or the military buildings, I don't think that generally makes a huge difference because like better players, if you start killing their house villagers, they just turn the other villagers into house villagers. But it could be good to like just focus on the house villagers. I mean, I don't know. I think that the thing is they can make 50 military buildings, but if they don't have the houses to produce from them, then it doesn't really matter. In the same token, they can make a lot of houses, but if they don't have the military to produce from, then they're also not going to have a lot of military. So it probably doesn't. It's probably beneficial to just like if you could just focus on one particular thing, like either kill all the military buildings or kill all the villagers building the houses. But in the actual game, it's a lot harder to do that because people build houses like in various places on the map. It's not always super consistent like where they're building all their houses. So in general, I just would go for like the easiest villagers to kill. But anyways, again, just a review. I'm Once the scouts get in here, once the stables are built, I don't look back at the stables. I just queue the stables, set both stables to here, and again that just sets one of the waypoints, so I don't have to go back. You could just go here. You could just go stable, and do that as well. That's fine. But I just like to set if you're here, like you're looking at it, you can actually be more specific with where you want the waypoint versus if you're on the mini map, it's a little bit harder. Um, but yeah, so you could even just go like here. You could do double and then go like that. That's actually even more precise. That's probably even better, right? Then you can get two very precise waypoints. Because again, ideally what you want to do is even like being like a little bit farther away from their TC is good as well. Because if you're out here, then your paladins are like outside the range of maybe where their units are spawned or where their units can see you. And so they won't just latch on right away, especially when they spawn. Maybe some of them will if you like go in front of the buildings, but like these other ones, they're not just going to go right to you. Whereas if you have it if you have a lot closer in here, like tighter, a lot more units are going to latch onto you, and it's going to give you a smaller chance of being able to kill villagers. So yeah, that's that. Again, you want to build here. I didn't do a very good job of it, but you want to focus on building the military buildings that are going to be facing your opponent, so that again the helbs are spawning and they're dragging the units with them. And then the other thing that I'll talk about that is kind of hard for a lot of players as well is what's the ratio? How many villagers do I need on houses, compared to the villagers I have on stables? So in general, like I'd say that every military unit is made about as fast as every house is built. So if you think about it, like if you have one villager building a house every 25 seconds, and for every like production building, a unit is made every 25 seconds, then for every 5 buildings, you need one villager building a house, like constantly, right? Some units are made actually faster than 25 seconds. So just to kind of err on being more efficient, you're going to want to have basically one more villager than, like if you have 15 production buildings, then I would have four villagers building houses constantly. So just take the number of production buildings you have, divide that by 5, and then add 1. So in the beginning here we have 3 divided by 5 is less than 1 plus 1. We just need 1. But then the thing is that once these two buildings are up, then we're gonna have 5 divided by 1 is 1, plus 1 is 2. So I have 2 constantly. In general, like once we have five villagers building a production building, then for every new set of production buildings built, we need 1 more villagers on houses. Um, for most build orders for deathmatch, you're probably not going to exceed more than 15 buildings. Like there's some cases like Huns we did 466 in the beginning. That's 16 buildings. So, but in general, you're not going to exceed more than that. So I would say that if you had like 3 villagers on houses, you know, not right away, but like once you get to like start building, once you start seeing like 7 8 buildings up, right? If you just have 3 on houses from that point on, right, you should be good. You won't be getting population capped. You could even have 4 to be safe, but again, it depends on the civ and how fast. Like if it's Goths, then obviously like you got to remember that barracks produce twice as fast. So you know you need to have villagers on houses much sooner. And if you're gonna make 6 barracks, that's literally like 12. That's like 12 barracks from a normal civ. So you need 3 villagers building houses constantly in that particular situation. Maybe even faster. I don't even know. Or like Cubans, they make the Hussars and the CA are made faster. So again, you need to put more villagers on the houses. So yeah. And then I guess another thing is those like castles. Castles are going to give you population space. And again, it just depends when you're making the castles. I think as long as you're following again that rule of thumb for the number of production buildings that are actually up, you're always going to be good. So I guess that's the real rule of thumb. But usually with like if you're going to make castles early, you don't usually make more than 10 normal production facilities. So just keeping like 2 on houses when you're making castles is usually fine. And then the castles provide you with extra production or extra what do you call it? Extra population. So it usually the villagers building the castles are almost like villagers building houses as well. So um, yeah, so like 3 on average again, 4 for like super heavy like standard builds, and then 2 for like ones that are like more castle heavy, if that makes sense. So yeah, hopefully that solves your housing. And then again, you're just gonna have to try to, if they start killing house villagers, again, just keep sending more to go build houses. When you're raiding, this is the biggest issue I have is that when I'm raiding, my villagers start to like finish building all the houses that I've set out for them, right? And then you have less than ideal numbers of villagers building houses, and then you start getting population caps, which isn't really that good. So, and the best way to build houses is usually just I probably wouldn't start making them in that cube fashion like I started with here. I think it's better probably to make them in rows of like three houses or so is probably fine. If you make 4, then it gets kind of starts screwing up your making a row of 4 houses. Then it starts to let's say 1, 2, 3, 4. That's not too bad. It starts to like slow down your unit's ability to travel through the buildings, but yeah. So like in this case here, what I would do here is I have 2 villagers building houses. So again, if I shift queue this villager to start building houses here, he's okay. That house just finished, but had this house not finished, this villager would finish this house. Best thing to do is just stop the villager using your stop command, which for me is C, and then send him to go build the houses and then shift queue. But anyways, okay, so yeah, this Hussar was killing villagers here, and again, maybe I should just not keep worrying about this, but try to keep targeting villagers when you can. Have the control group on 1. When these paladins come out, try to put them on. If the Hussar's already dead, you can put them on 1. If it's not, then you can put them on 2, right? And then that's just again, it's an easy way for you to be able to jump from here to here without having to click on the mini map. You don't have to, you can do whatever you're doing here. 2, bam, just double click 2, you're here, right? When you're here, when you see the paladins on the mini map are there, that's when you just jump, and then you just start taking each paladin and just picking villagers off, and then just again try to jump. Like again, I'm not really good. I'm a pretty decent raider, but it usually comes at the cost of me being able to manage back here. But again, remember you can always queue the buildings looking at the raid. You can always queue like this. The biggest thing is that you need to look back here sometimes to make sure that the villagers are not getting all clumped up on one building, or they're not just getting all killed by the enemy paladins, right? It's better if they're going like super heavy on the raid as well. It's better to just have your villagers chilling in the town center than it is to have them out dying. Like, cause once they're dead, right? It's better just to have them chill and sit in the town center until you've cleared up the enemy than it is to have them die. Um, yeah. And like I said, the reason why you want to build like this is that it makes it a lot easier to wall the vills in with like palisades if they do come to raid. Although I have to admit it's quite hard to defend against it's hard to get to defend against the raid with like palisade walls when you're also trying to raid as well. But that's just something to practice and you get better at it over time. So now we have 5 production buildings. We just need 1 villager constantly building houses, but again we err on the side of having more vills on houses. We got 2 on houses, and then again once these buildings are up, we're gonna need 3 on houses, and yeah. So yeah, so I'll just kind of continue here. So let's just try to get these villagers building houses, and we got those going there, and we got these going here, and then maybe a couple more. Got there, and you would just use one of these paladins to you just use one of these paladins to see now like I didn't have any more houses for these guys, and now these villagers are starting to clump on the houses here. So then again you just gotta stop the villagers and build more houses. Okay. So again, try to target, run away, target, and then what you want to do is get into building castles. And I don't want to go too far into this, but you want to find hills. Just try to find what you can. And also, I made a mistake here again because I suck, but you don't want to keep sending in lots of paladins. Like, raiding in the beginning is fine, but the objective with raiding in the beginning is you want to be able to slow down their ability to produce military units. That's the job of the initial raid right here. And this is against the AI, so it's not as good. But the thing is that once they get enough military buildings out to start producing a lot of military, just killing the villagers isn't good enough because it's costing you paladins. You don't want to lose one of your best gold units, just for the villagers in the beginning. Because the thing is that, I mean, it can be okay in some situations. Like if you have a good map, it can be okay. But if you don't have a great map, then you're just basically like if they already got up all their production buildings, then you're no longer stopping their ability to produce military units. Really, you're just like stopping their ability to expand across the map, which again is okay. But if you have a really exposed map, like all your golds are towards the center, they can just push you right up the middle with their extra army, right? And they don't have to worry about their eco in the short term because they can just they can prevent you from ecoing as well, right? So in general, against better players, it's usually not worth it to raid with more than like 6 paladins, but it's definitely okay to raid with more units if you have like a really good start. Like let's say you start picking villagers early. If you start picking villagers like the Hussar early, then that basically means that their production is slower than what it would have otherwise been, which means that the paladins are going to be more viable for a longer period of time. So sending in like 9 or whatever, or even 12 could be okay. Or like if you're like a civ like Franks where the paladins produce faster, then again you can send in more because their villagers haven't built the buildings as quickly. So yeah, same thing as like with Goth. Goth have Huskarls, they're relatively cheap compared to villagers. So sending in a lot of Huskarls to like raid is usually not a big deal because killing those villagers can be really preventing them from ecoing and expanding is really a strong thing when you're like Goth. So yeah. But yeah, so now at this point, what you want to do, it depends again a lot on the situation, but definitely want to get the siege workshops up fast. Try to maintain population space. But yeah, I think this kind of is good for the beginning. Like a good start to the beginning of the game. I probably should make another video if I'm going to go into more detail, but yeah, we made our decision on how many staples we're going to make. Then we chose how many barracks, which for some reason was 7, which I never talked about making 7 in the video, but in the other videos, but whatever. And then, like I said, we'll probably go a little bit heavier on the siege workshops and then go, harder into siege. Because we're Celts against Magyars here. But yeah, so the next part would definitely be expanding, and like I said, I'll talk about it in another video. But hopefully, again, just kind of recap, you know, getting the hotkeys down is really important. Making sure your hotkeys are efficient so you can perform all the essential like early game moves is really nice if you want to be a better level player. So again, in the beginning, queuing villagers before the screen turns, before you can see the screen, then using the idle military hotkey to get the hussar to their base, then building the buildings, then making the extra buildings, setting the frames for them, maybe going back to the hussar, check the hussar to see if it's closer to the enemy base, trying to snipe villagers. At the same time, queuing up your units, you know, your paladins or whatever, or cavalier from your own base. If you see their hussar come by, then just have a hussar or a cavalier, or actually, if if you get camels, it can be good to just make one camel in the beginning and then the rest cavalier or paladins, because then you can snipe the hussar a little bit faster. Um, but um, but yeah, setting the way, like we said, we already set the waypoint. We use one to kill the hussar. We put control groups on the cavalier or whatever as they come out. That's again, that's kind of an optional thing. If you can do it, great. If you can't, then you'll have to use the mini map to jump there. But and then as the cavalier paladin get to the enemy base, you try to uh, snipe the villagers as the paladin are kind of running through. Again, you have a lot of time because they're running through the base, so you don't have to actually control them to tell them to go back. If you don't see any in the front, you don't have to tell them to go to the back. They're already going to the back. If you do see them in the front, you stop them and have them go there, right? It's really nice that way. Um, and then again, don't send too many. Don't send too many cavalier. Don't send too many paladin. Again, if you do good in the beginning, then if you do good right in the beginning, then you can keep sending more. But once they start getting up a lot of military, once they got most of their military buildings up, you want to hold off on the paladins. Start to rally them. We'll talk about where to rally them in future videos, but don't keep sending them into their base. Um, and and yeah, and like what we talked about the houses. Usually, just one house villager per five production buildings, but you can always err. I always like to do +1 over that, just to make sure I'm not getting housed, and and then just try to keep them nice and clean like this if you can. Again, it takes practice. Play against the AI a lot, practice setting these frames down, and then that'll help you have better starts. It'll be a lot nicer having buildings like this than having buildings all over the place. So yeah, and then again, barracks in the front. Always try to get that going first and build these ones first. Don't build these ones first like I did this game. Not so great. Um, yeah, so that was the start, and in the next video, I'll keep talking a little bit more about the start, but we'll try to get into the kind of other details. All right, thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next video.